This is Nitin Ramachandra from the NR Hour Sports Show. This is episode 1015. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, on all the podcast platforms. We are joined by a really special guest. His name is Chris Hale. He's a former USC, Buffalo Bills, Denver Broncos defensive back. He's joining the show today. Man, what a great career. And now he's doing big things off the field. Obviously now he's a big golfer. I see him. You golf a lot with your former athletes also, and man, doing big things off the field. But Chris, we finally made this happen. Thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor. And fans, please tune in. We are live. You can ask questions to Chris today on our Spreaker app. So please, fans, tune in, ask questions. And Chris, thank you again for joining the show. And like I said, great career. How are you and your family doing today?
Everything's great, man. Yeah, it's been a long time coming between me and you. We've been trying this for a long time. Yeah. So yeah, it's good to be here finally.
Yeah. So let's tell our fans. When did you get interested in playing football, and when you got interested in playing football, who did you look up to in the NFL?
Well, you know, I'm older now, so I'm 56 years old. But I started wanting to play football since the day I was born. I started at about 8 years old, and at 8 years old, so this is the early 70s. O.J. Simpson was like the greatest thing that I'd ever seen since sliced bread. Back in those days. Yeah. Everybody's surprised about that one, but I did everything O.J. And so almost everything O.J. Let's not say that. So I bought his shoes. I wanted to wear my helmet like him, the whole thing. And that's sort of just kind of always been my dream, since I was a very young man.
Yeah. So being a defensive back, was that always on your back of your mind? You wanted to be on defense, or did you get any time on offense while you were in high school and all?
Yeah, I did. I was actually a wide receiver and a defensive back. So, I did pretty much anything on the field since I was very young as well. I was a running back when I was very young, but obviously by the time I got into high school, I was so small that they didn't want to transfer me to they didn't want me to be a running back, even though I could have done it. So they, put you out to a wide receiver when you're not a running back anymore, right? And you got a little bit of speed, so. And then I was a safety, and then I was a corner. I don't know how I melted into being a cornerback. I definitely would say that I like to hit people more than I like to get hit. And so that probably kind of melted me over to that side of the ball. But fortunately for me, it worked out.
Yeah, so tell our fans, this is interesting. Obviously, not only you play for UNC Trojans, but you play for Nebraska. So take us to that process of playing for two colleges, and what was that like for you, and what made you decide to move? To play in two different colleges.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting story. I wasn't highly recruited when I was younger. 45 pounds or so, and I actually went to the University of Nebraska to run track. And I was on a track team, and back then in that time, it was the Big 8 conference, and did pretty well in Big 8 conference indoors and track. But after track practice, I would go watch the football players. And in my mind, I said that I was good enough to play here. And remember, it was the year after they won the national title with Mike Rozier and with Turner Gill and those guys. So this is 1985. So I felt myself just wanting to go into that area and see what I could do on the football field. So I actually walked on to that football team. And how that happened was they made me do a combine because, Nebraska has big time football. So what they did is they would have a combine camp for the people that wanted to try out. And in their combine camp, I broke their school record in the vertical leap as a walk-on freshman. And I ran like a 4.4 for them. In the 40, and then what happens is I get on the team and I play. I end up in some games late. I was fourth team. I was actually fourth team on the depth chart when I got on the team because they have so many players. Yeah. And I ended up second team, but I ended up getting a lot of action. And to make a long story short, I saved one game against the team I had an interception, and then I shut a receiver down. And then the next game they boosted me up to the second team, and then I had another interception, and I ended up leading the team in interceptions.
Wow.
And so at the end of the year, I went to the coach. I went to Coach Osborne at the time, the legendary Tom Osborne.
Yeah.
And asked for a scholarship, and they said they had none available. And so out of frustration, I didn't know what I was going to do. Actually, I thought, I told him I'd work. I thought I'd found a home, at the University of Nebraska. And he said, well, listen, you have $100 phone bill that you owe. You've got to pay that before you start your classes. And so I went to the counselor and I asked her, can I use her phone? And she said, certainly. I said, I'll get the $100 from my mom and we'll just move forward. And when I picked up the phone, I said to my mom, I said, send me a one-way ticket. I'm out of here. And so I decided, enough was enough, right? I didn't want my mom to try to pay for an education where I thought I could, you just watched what I did as a school and you knew what I could do. So I figured I could do it somewhere else. So I came home and I ended up going to Glendale City College out in Glendale, California, which is about 10 minutes outside of LA. And so I actually went to one meeting and I fell asleep in the meeting, and the coach said to me, Chris, you got to be aware if you want to play for our team, if you want to get back into it. And I said to him, you know what, coach, I don't feel like playing anymore. I'm done. So I didn't feel like I was getting any chances. And I had always felt that way because of my size, and still I'm still about 155 pounds, and I'm about 5'7" at the time. And so I quit sports altogether. And so I took a complete year off. And then I decided the next year after that I kind of had the fever again. And so I went back out for the team, and the same coach welcomed me back onto the field, and he said, absolutely, I'm there for you. We'll do whatever we want. We can do with you. And I said, absolutely. And so I had one, but I only had 1 year to play junior college football because I had burned up since I started at Nebraska, and I had over 12 credits. Your clock starts as far as the eligibility that you have. So I burned up my redshirt year. And so I went to Glendale College. I played there for that 1 year, and I ended up, and the funny thing is I had a similar story. So I went there, and there was two corners there, and one was going to Texas A&M, and the other one was going to San Diego State. And he said, Chris, I'll fit you in wherever I can. And at that point in my career, I didn't think anything of it. I said, you know what, coach, I'm going to do whatever you ask me to do, and I'll be there for you. But about 3 weeks into the season, I ended up starting, and those two ended up switching off on one side of the field. And I ended up leading the conference, and I think I led the nation in interceptions in junior college, and that's how I got to USC. And so the recruiting process opened up again, and at that point, I didn't want to leave home. And so and USC was probably the best fit for me, and that's why I ended up there.
Wow.
I know that was a long, drawn-out story, but
no,
you got of it.
Hey, that's a great story, and it doesn't matter about height or size. It matters how hard you guys work, and if you want to get to your goal, you got to push for it, and you did, man. And that's a heck of a story right there. And you beat out those two other players you just mentioned, and man, that speaks how hard of a player you were and how hard you worked in your career. So
yeah, the funny thing is it kind of started in high school, and we had a pretty good high school team. And there's sort of a record that I have in the teams that I'm on, in which we've never lost more than 2 games at any time in my life. And I've been in every big game at every level. But when I was in high school, we had a couple guys getting recruited, and one did actually go to Nebraska and he stayed there. Another went to New Mexico, and one went to San Diego State. So we had a really good high school team. And so one of the coaches, and I'll never forget this, and he lit a fire under me and talk about not quitting. I know I quit for a moment, but I had to come back. But he said to me, and he was a New Mexico State coach, and he said to me, and I said, I'm leading the conference in interceptions in high school. And he said to me, it's because your players are so good on your defensive line that they're just throwing up the ball, and you're picking it off. And I thought to myself, whatever. I'm gonna prove this dude wrong. He has no idea who I am to this moment, but it lit a fire under me that I would never forget.
Wow. Yeah, so we are live with former USC, Nebraska, and NFL defensive back Chris Hale. We have a couple of fan questions coming in here, and one of our fans want to know what were you like as a running back and a receiver?
I had shakes. I was like, listen, if you were to, the older you get, the better your stories get. As a receiver, I would probably be like Randy Moss as a running back, Barry Sanders.
Oh, wow.
I'm kidding. Never be to that level. But I was, obviously because I was a smaller guy, I had a little bit of movement. I actually, when you're in the NFL, there's only 53 guys in the roster. You get an opportunity to play both sides because you have to show the defense different sides. So I would scout offense at the Buffalo Bills alongside another scout offensive player that you have to help out, Steve Tasker, who ended up being pretty good, and he showed me a lot of moves, and so I was a very good receiver. I think I could have actually played professional as a receiver as well. I don't know why I never attacked that, but yeah, I was a good receiver. And as a running back, so when I was smaller, I was a running back, and I would average 30 touchdowns a season as a running back. So I could do it there too. It's just that I think that the fact that nobody's going to take a chance on a 145-pound running back at the high school level.
Yeah. So before we get to our other fan question, would you say that it was an easy adjustment for you from switching to receiver to defensive back? Or? Yeah,
because I had been so used to it. So even when I was in Pop Warner, I played both sides. I played wide receiver and running back and defensive back. So the transition for me was real easy because I had been doing it since I was 8 years old. So it wasn't a problem. There's sides of what you want to do as a receiver or as a defensive back to the other side of the ball.
Well, yeah. So one of our other fans want to know. Obviously, you got drafted by the Buffalo Bills in 1989, and you got to play with some amazing teammates, Hall of Fame players, and they want to know what was it like going against Andre Reed in practice.
Andre Reed.
Yeah.
Everybody says that. We played golf yesterday, so yeah. I'm going to tell you about my golf foursome yesterday. My golf foursome was Andre Reed, Willie Gault, and Eddie George. And which we had a fantastic time, and it was to benefit the Marcus Allen charity. But Andre Reed is the toughest receiver I've ever guarded in my life. Obviously, I saw him every day, and Andre Reed always tells a story. Every time we're together, he'll tell somebody else's story. When I was a rookie, I wanted to guard Andre all the time because I felt like if you were going to be the best, you had to go against the best to be able to learn to be the best. And so Andre will tell that story over and over again. And I would always try to go up against Andre. So Andre and our receiving core was incredible. And we had Andre Reed. We had Steve Tasker, who could, could switch back and forth. We had a guy named Don Beebe who came in with me. We had a guy named James Lofton who was there too. So 2 out of 4 of our receivers, possibly 5. I mean, 3 out of 5, rather, would be in the Hall of Fame. And obviously, I think Steve Tasker belongs in the Hall of Fame. But an incredible amount of guys that I played against that I could get the knowledge from. So it was a mind-blowing experience. To answer his question, it was a mind-blowing experience to go from college, where I thought you could see maybe 1 or 2 good receivers in all of college, to going to practice against guys who were incredible on every single play. And in practice, every single play was like you were in a game.
Wow. And also you got to be with Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas. Man, those are 2 legends right there also. And speaking of Jim Kelly, what was it like being his teammate? And obviously he's gone through a lot with cancer, but talk about Jim Kelly as a teammate.
He's a great guy, a fantastic individual. He's a wonderful guy. It's funny, big country boy who just likes everybody. He's a great guy. I'll call Jim probably once every 6 months or so just to see how he's doing. We don't communicate, on a regular basis. You just kind of have your own life. but Jim is a wonderful human being. I always just want to see how he is, especially with what has happened in his life. And I just say hello and connect, and he always writes back right away. And so we've always had a good relationship. The one thing that Jim may not even remember, but when I was a rookie, he invited me to his home. And I know he had the parties at his home and after the games and stuff. But the thing is that and he didn't have to do it, he had, big old house, and he would ask, some guys that he liked to stay at his house. You can stay at my house and save yourself some money as a rookie. And he allowed me to stay at his house for a few days, and I would always appreciate that.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. So speaking of Buffalo, what was it like for you being drafted by a great franchise? Obviously now they're talented now and competing for hopefully another Super Bowl pretty soon here. But for you, when you were there, what was it like being in front of those fans, playing in front of Bills Mafia, and playing and wearing that blue uniform, red, white uniform, and just competing every day for that team?
Well, since it was so long ago, it wasn't Bills Mafia back in those days. It was almost called Bills Group.
Yeah.
The fans are the best I've ever seen. In any sport, they're very loyal. And the funny thing about me getting there and realizing their fan base was so incredible, because in those days, we didn't have as much television games televised. So Buffalo wasn't on the spectrum until we started winning.
Yeah.
And they didn't start winning but 2 years before I got there. But realizing that they didn't win anything, just like they have for the last 20 years before now, the stadium is still packed. They still love their Bills. That's the only game in town. It's like Alabama in college, in Birmingham or Mobile, I should say. But to know that the fans, and they treat you like a king out there, I will never believe that anybody has a better fan base than the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, so we have another fan question. Someone wants to know some of your best moments in college and in the NFL.
Best moments, shoot. I have a lot, which is, is a pretty good thing to have. I think one of my favorite moments is when we I'll start with college. We played Stanford. It was probably, I don't know, 5th or 6th game of the season.
Yeah.
And we were, I think, 4 or 5-0. And Stanford was giving us hell up at Stanford. And, Stanford always plays us tough. And they were actually winning in the game. In the game, I'd already blocked a punt. And then I blocked a field goal. And then they were driving down in the 4th quarter. And their quarterback scrambled around the end. And his name was Brian Johnson at the time. He ended up being a catcher for, I think, the San Francisco Giants. And he came around the corner, and we, and back in the days where you could go helmet to helmet, I knocked him out of the game.
Ooh.
And he had knocked him out with a concussion. And I stood over him, and I know he'll never live that down. And then they put in another quarterback, and then they had to punt, and then they put in another quarterback, and then we actually got the ball back, went down, scored, took the lead. This is late in the 4th, and then they had one more drive to win it, and then I picked it off.
Wow.
And so to seal the game, and so I was ABC Player of the Week, and obviously Conference Player of the Week, and so that was one of my better games. I got it. You can't hear that, can you, on the other end when you have other calls coming in?
No. Oh, I can hear the beep. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. All right. Christian Okoye. You remember the running back in the Nightmare?
Hey, bring him on the phone.
Yeah, no.
I'm just joking.
I don't even know how.
Nigerian Nightmare.
That's who it was called.
You were golfing with him today, right? Or yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. I'm gonna tell him I had a bigger name on the other line. So I'll go back to in the pros. I think I've had some good moments. I remember them putting me in a game in my rookie year, and it was maybe my 2nd or 3rd game that I've ever played. And one of our guys got hurt for a couple of plays, and I came in the game. Nate Odoms got hurt, and it was a 2-minute offense, and we're playing Seattle, and Benny Blades went deep on me for what they thought was a reap, and they didn't realize what happened, and it was Frank Gifford and those guys on the air. And they thought it was a touchdown that Benny Blades caught on me, and then they looked at it and they said he dropped the ball. And then they looked at the replay of the film, And he actually, it was right in his hands, but I came up between his hands, facing him, knocked the ball up in the air, and then knocked it away. And then actually he said, well, actually it was knocked down by this, the rookie. And they said he's from USC. And then all of a sudden I was a good guy. And then Frank Gifford was like, well, that's one of my guys. He's a USC guy, so on and so forth. So, I mean, I've had individually, I've had a lot of good times in the NFL, collectively or as a team, obviously against the Houston Oilers, the comeback game where we were down 35-3 was pretty amazing to come back and beat them. That sets out as one of those great memories. And by the way, for everybody who's listening, for anything, when you go to a Super Bowl, it is a special time, win or lose. And I lost 3 Super Bowls with the Bills, which is, you hate to lose these, but it's a very special game to be a part of. And it is a memory that you will never forget. Win or lose, it was incredible. And so those are some of my best moments in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you would like to win the Super Bowl, but you hit it on the head right there. To be part of the final game and to get to it's hard to get to the final game, obviously, in all sports. But just to get there and work hard as a team, it's a great. I consider it as a great season, even if you lose or win. But
absolutely.
But just to able to win, to be in part of 3 Super Bowls with the Buffalo Bills, that's amazing, truly amazing. And I want to talk about your defense, though. Obviously, you had a great defense in your Buffalo days, and we had your former teammate on the show 2 years ago, Art Steele. He was a great player too. And talk about your defense, man, because you guys brought it back in the day.
Oh, it was ridiculous, right? And so there were, Cornelius Bennett, Bruce Smith, all-time sack leader. We had Henry Jones, who led the league in interceptions one year. The most unsung guy in that defense, though, was a guy named Darryl Talley. Mm-hmm. Who was probably one of the best defensive players that I've ever played with. And his knowledge of the game was incredible. So, we had special talent all the way around. It's hard to believe with all the guys that we had that we couldn't win the Super Bowl. Even when Art Steele left, we had other guys that replaced him. So I was with Art for 1 or 2 years. I can't remember how many. And then we had Leon Sills, Dr. Sack, that was there. We had Shane Conlon, the old All-American from Penn State, who was a linebacker with us. Marcus Patton. I mean, it was on and on. I got to tell you, I got to give credit to Bill Polian for absolutely knowing talent. And obviously he's known talent because he went to the Super Bowl with Carolina and then again with Indianapolis as well. So, you got to give credit to the guys that know talent to be able to stockpile that kind of talent in Buffalo, New York, and get us to 4 straight Super Bowls.
Yeah, so we have another fan question for you. Someone wants to know, do you like today's NFL?
I love today's NFL. It's hard not to watch. I actually still work in today's NFL. I'm the uniform inspector at SoFi Stadium.
Oh wow!
For the Rams and Chargers games. So I'm there every week. This is my love. Football's my love. It's there's still a lot of talented individuals out there. I love the competition. I love the special players, just like anybody else does who's a fan. I'm a fan of the game now. Yeah. I just know a little bit more than anybody else does about the game because I was able to play it. But and so when I sit, and so as for what I do, I sit basically on the bench at the game, so I still see the good intricacies of the game. I know the game even better now, obviously, because I'm older. But yeah, I love to listen. The Rams last year, I love to see Aaron Donald play. Mm-hmm. He transcends decades in which he could have played when I played. He can play now. He's a monster. Pat Mahomes, hard not to. Jared Allen, it's hard not to watch these guys be able to play and do the incredible things that they do. So that part hasn't changed. So it's still enjoyable.
Yeah, speaking of Aaron Donald, he just signed an extension yesterday. Congrats to him, 2 years, $60 million, and you guys needed him back, so he came back, and what a great piece! Obviously, amazing player. And speaking of the Rams, actually, We had Mike Carney on the show too, who works for the Rams. Yeah.
Right. Mike's my partner.
Yeah.
So Mike does. Yeah. Did he tell you he's my partner? So
yeah.
he's the other side of the field uniform inspector.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys do a great job with that. And so speaking of, I want to ask you, what's it like just after your career? What's it like just to go back and hang out with your former teammates or former players you played against? For example, you went to a Dodgers game recently with Rodney Pete. So what's it like just to hang out with them and just come back? It's like a reunion for you guys.
Right. Well, so Rodney was my roommate in college. So we went to school together. We've known each other since we were 18 years old.
Wow.
So he'll always be my guy. Right. And so we've always had that bond. And, he's more like a brother than he is a friend. And I shouldn't just say that about him. Pretty much all of these guys. So like Christian, who just called, or Eric Dickerson, we're like brothers. The thing about the NFL or any sport that you've ever played, actually, I shouldn't even just I shouldn't just say it's the NFL, the NBA, NHL hockey, because yesterday I did Mark Fallon's golf tournament. So it wasn't just football players there. Jeremy Roenick was there, Kiki Vandeweghe was there, Byron Scott is there. We're all friends. This is sports is a very small fraternity that people don't realize. At this point, there's probably 1,500 NFL. It's not a lot. You're going to run across people at one time that played other sports, and they respect your sport as well. And so you end up becoming friends. And so even with your opponents, you're going to shake hands at the end of the day. If you look at it now, LeBron and all those guys, they all practice together. And so we always used to work out together. I would work out with Mike Sherrard, Rodney would throw, Anthony Miller used to play with the Chargers. We've all become friends with each other. And so we identify with our own lifestyle and what we went through and all that stuff. And so it isn't really, as exciting as you think it is to hang out with these guys, because they're just friends, be just like the friends that you went to school with and you're becoming friends with. It just so happens that they were Hall of Fame players or, big time players where they're at. I talk stuff to them just like I would talk to any of my buddies. So we just have that bond from what we did that we've just carried on for a lot of years. And so, yeah, I've known, Eric Dickerson and Christian, we go everywhere to play golf together, but I've known those guys for 25 years.
Wow.
So, so it's a long time.
Yeah, so a couple more things here. We have a couple more fan questions. Someone wants to know, would you consider being a coach someday?
I've never wanted to be a coach, which is really funny. However, I've always wanted to be a front office guy. I've always wanted to make choices, more so like I would rather be a Bill Polian than because their jobs are secure than anybody else. You know what I mean? There's so much pressure at being a coach, and whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, or your players are, everything's out of your control. And so it's just never been my thing. I have coached kids before. I have, tried to help in certain situations, but never officially gotten out there and become somebody. I did try to go back to the NFL as like a scout or general manager stuff, and it never worked out. So, I just had to let that go. And
also, someone wants to know, how's your golf game?
My golf game is up and down. It's up and down. Some days I can shoot into the 70s, but most days I'm in the 80s. I just want to be competitive. The funny thing about golf is I've been playing for like 13 years, and somebody told me a long time ago, it's going to take you 10 years to get a proper swing. And I go, you must be out of your mind. I'm a great athlete. I'm the greatest athlete ever, kind of thing. And it's been 13 years and I'm still working on my swing. So, it is what it is. And listen, I watch guys, and I've played with all these guys, and we all just kind of, go out there, figure it out. We have a good time. We bet some money once in a while, and do our thing. But it's we have a good time with each other, smoke some cigars, and have a good time, and we enjoy it. And by the way, the one thing about athletes, we're not going out and hitting anybody anymore. We're not doing any of that stuff anymore. So what better game to play where there's a little bit of competition?
Yeah.
And than golf, and that's that's what we did. So I played head to head against Eddie George yesterday, and Willie Galt played head to head against Andre Reed.
Wow.
And so it was for our captain of our team was Vince Coleman, the baseball player from the Cardinals. The captain of the other team was Marcus. And I'm just gonna tell you, we won all the way around.
Nice. So before we get to the last two things, can you tell our fans about playing underneath Coach Marv Levy?
And so Marv was a great man. He's still a great man. He's, I don't know, 90, he might be 160 years old right now. But Marv is a fantastic human being. He knew how to not only coach and put people together, but try his best, because there's so many things going on that people don't know about. There's egos, there's your ability to play, there's your strengths and weaknesses as individuals, and to be able to do that on a team. And what people don't realize is he doesn't make the money that the players do, and so he could get fired a lot easier than they could. And so to be able to control all of that in that environment and win consistently says a lot about who he is. And as a human being, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about him. He's a fantastic guy, and he's the best coach I've ever been around.
Well, so the last two things here. Our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He's now.
I know Hugh very well.
Yeah, so he's a coach for Grambling State now. So it's amazing.
Yeah. I know. I'm gonna tell you how far.
Oh, I couldn't hear.
Was.
Where? I couldn't hear you.
Hugh went to Glendale College.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
That's how long I've known Hugh.
Oh, wow.
So we go back 30 years.
Wow. Yeah. So we're part of his foundation, and we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking and making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe, and we'll send you the foundation so you can go check it out.
Okay. Yeah, I got no problem with that. Always eager to help.
Yeah, thank you. And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Oh my gosh. What could you say? Be well. You've kept this country standing with the effort that you put in. You're fantastic. And it's funny. I think your job and what you do is taken so lightly because people figure out that this is what you're supposed to do, but you don't have to do it. You go above and beyond to make this country what it is. And congratulations on what you do.
Yeah. So before we close this out, let our fans know where they can find you on social media.
Shoot, see, this is how old I am. I don't, my social media, my Instagram is.
I got it here right here.
You got it. See Hale 26.
On Instagram, follow Chris Hale. It's CHALE and 26 and 26.
Yeah, there you go. You know it better than I do, man. I don't know why I don't know it, but I don't know it. So yeah, that's
Twitter,
where I'm at.
On Twitter, you can follow him at let's see here. Oh, right here. Chris.
Yeah,
right here. Oh,
see Hale 26.
Chris. So Chris Hale 26. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. What about my OnlyFans? I'm kidding.
You're funny. That's funny. That's a good one right there. Good. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. Wow. You have OnlyFans?
No, I ain't that good looking.
But so there it is. That wraps up episode 1015 with former USC, Nebraska, NFL Buffalo Bills defensive back Chris Hale. Man, and now he works for the Rams and Chargers as a uniform inspector. Man, go follow this guy on social media. Like, we just put out the handles out there. Go follow him. Go follow him right now. He does great things off the field, and obviously he's a golfer now. And Chris, thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor, and keep up the great work. And like I said, thank you again for coming on. We would love to have you back on the show one day down the line so you can meet the full team. But just keep up the great work, and thank you again, man.
You're welcome, my friend. Take care of the dog.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, brother.